Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the ABAP ritual where we are learning about ABAP, OOPS ABAP, Eliadox ABAP on HANA, OData and workflow related interview questions and answer which are very important and very frequently one. So whichever are the VBI and very frequently asked question, our main focus will be there on those question. However, we are covering some information based question or some tricky question as well, which is not very frequently asked, but that can be asked. Okay. And whichever the question is important, we are marking over there as a VBA. So if we have less time to prepare, we have to go through the VBA question only, not all. So yesterday we have seen what are the advantages of column storage, right? So these are the advantages we have seen, that no need of creation of secondary indexes. We can perform the aggregation on fly, sum, mean, max, average, and count. Compression is high in case of we have the duplicate record. Version management of a record for audit and compliance, or as a history without creating the duplicate record with the help of latest timestamp. And it supports only the insert only approach. So these are the biggest benefit of the column storage. What's the difference between row storage and column storage? So in terms of use, we have written over here the difference. What is the sidecar scenario and how we could achieve, right? We have seen this one. What is code push down? Yesterday we have understood what is code push down, because our database is very strong now. So we are supposed to push our code down at the database layer so that we can get the effective performance. In S/4HANA, there are several new table which are very big table introduced instead of multiple table of a particular functional module. So for example, this is for these all tables were replaced around I think 18 or 21 tables, something like that, were replaced with a single table called matdog. And here also you can see that here also there are so many tables in FICO. Those tables were replaced by a single table with AC Doka. And for this table, just to avoid the code, you know, inconsistency, for all these tables, CDS view were created in form of a replacement object, right? When the database tables were replaced by new table in S4, how previous code is, right? We have seen, just discussed. HANA database is supported by which US, which OS? So only two as of now, SUSE Linux and Red Hat Linux. This has been developed in which particular programming language? C++. What is the difference between S4 HANA on premise and S4 HANA on cloud, right? We have seen. And what is the different feature or property or pillar of the HANA database? So it's in memory, it is having the massive parallel processing capacity, it supports OLTP, OLAP, it supports the digital core sensor, artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning. It provides HANA search and fuzzy search, so powerful, right? HANA search and fuzzy search. It is having the calculation engine to improve the calculation speed. What are the different code push down technique in which sequence priority need to be defined, right? So the very nowadays also new Open SQL is the most popular one. However, from reusability point of view, CDS wins sometimes, right? Because in our project, if something we are going to create, right, if we have to create some report, and if we know that this report can be used in form of UI5, or maybe it is supposed to be exposed at a OData service. So in that case, instead of going for new OpenSQL, we may more prefer to CDS because it is having so much reusability. We can use in report also, we can use in OData services also, and right, if it is used in OData services, and it's very easy to create the OData services at the rate of, right, odata.publish colon true. If we're going to give that annotation, automatically it will create the odata service, so easy, right? So that's where it wins CDS. And CDS is a kind of, future in ABAP programming or in S4HANA programming. In RESTful ABAP programming also this CDS comes over there, right? So CDS is very, very powerful nowadays. That's why in most of the interview, if you come across the question, mostly they are going to ask from the CDS, right? Because this is having a very wide use case, right? And this is a bigger subject as well. AMDP, when we have the maximum business logic to be processed at the database layer, then the AMDP comes into picture. ADBC, information model, and native SQL, not very much used, but this has this can be used in place of native SQL, right? When you have the sidecar scenario. Information model is nothing but calculation view, attribute view, analytical view, and calculation view. Nowadays, only calculation view is more appreciated, right? Means more present in the market. Attribute and analytical view is not right that much used. They are having some limitation due to that. Okay. And here, what's the different components of HANA, right? We have seen that application server, index server, name server, script server, different component we have. At least we are supposed to remember few components. For example, application server, index server, and name server, right? Index server is the heart of the HANA database. It's a true DB. Name server is just for the purpose of scalability, right? So if you want to scale your HANA database, you have one main database, and if you want to add the multiple HANA database with a main database, then name server would require for the purpose of load balancing or or to just communicate with the another database. So this is for the purpose of scalability. If you want to scale the HANA database, then that is required, right? The same name server, the main database, and it is just extended to the multiple HANA database instances. And this is the main where the name server is installed. And this name server here on the main database is going to communicate with this and going to manage the load. That's why it is also used for that. The name server is used for the load balancing. Okay. Today we are going to start this the very important, very important, okay, very important interview question. What important points need to be taken care of while migrating to S4 HANA, okay, or HANA database? Suppose like if you want to migrate from ECC to business suite on HANA, or if you want to migrate from ECC to S4 HANA, in that case, what point need to be taken care, right? So the answer over here, we have to give that the very first point. Let's start from the very first point. Whatever the native SQL you are having, right? Native SQL is specific to the database. So native SQL need to be taken care, the first point. Second point, whenever any select query is there with greater than or less than relational operator, you must have to use the order by clause, right? Because it's if you don't use it will give you the wrong result. Means it may give you the wrong result. So just to avoid that, it should not give the wrong result, write the order by clause. So what going to means what I'm trying to explain over here. Suppose if you have written some select query, right? Suppose you have written select a partner from Mara, right? And if there is some quantity field, right? So if you have written some, if some quantity field is there, NTGEW in Mara, let us suppose NTGEW or any quantity field, let's suppose. Okay. So if it is their query like select Matner from Mara, select Matner from Mara, okay, into internal table, right? Into table IT underscore Mara, let's suppose, where one quantity field I'm taking NTGW is greater than 20. Okay. If the query is like this, then in order to make sure that you get the correct result, right? If it is a Oracle database and all, you don't have to bother. But if you are migrating to the HANA database, just add over there order by, NTGEW, you know, This is important. You must have to use this one in order to avoid any kind of issue, because HANA database by default does not give you the result in the sorted order on which you are putting the if you are putting the where condition, right? Maybe due to the column storage. I don't know exactly what is the technical reason behind this, but this we have to take care. Wherever some comparison is there with the uh, quantity or currency field, right? Quantity field or currency field or non-character field, right? There you must have to use the order by clause. That's why this statement is telling. Okay, that's why this statement is here telling. So let me write it over here. Okay, SQL hint. So you know that SQL hint, however, it will not give you the dump. So, but if you want that some SQL hint should work, so because the SQL hint is specific to the database. Suppose if you have the Oracle database, right? So suppose if you have the Oracle database, for that the SQL hint syntax will be different than the SQL hint syntax, whatever you are going to use for the MaxDB or Informix or MySQL. Everywhere the SQL hint is going to be different, because now you are migrating to the HANA database. Your SQL hint should be, you know, uh, should be in the syntax of the supporting syntax of HANA DB, right? If you don't give, it will not work. It will not give the dump, but it will not work. These first two are the major issue. Very important. This first two is very important. This is like, if you don't correct it, it will not give the dump, or it will not give some incorrect result or something like that. Only the performance will be impacted. All right. Secondary indexes can be removed because HANA itself creates this index for all the. So this is also optional. The third and fourth is optional. Okay. Direct access of pool tables and cluster tables should be avoided or taken care. So you can avoid the direct access of pool tables and cluster table in the HANA database, right? Because in HANA database, pool tables and cluster table concept has been obsolete. However, we can still create the cluster table and pool table in HANA database also, right? Performance management, performance measurement. So performance measurement, like we can just take care of how the performance is going to be, right? So these are some important points which we have to take care when we are migrating from ECC to, when we are migrating from non-HANA database to HANA database or to S4 HANA. These 2 points is very important. One thing over here, is there any way in the SAP, right? One thing is over here, is there any way in the SAP which will take care of all these criteria, you know, or suppose tomorrow if these criteria are going to be updated, where, where, where the SAP is going to update, how SAP is going to handle this one. Okay. So for that purpose, actually, if you know about the, ATC, right? ABAP test cockpit, ATC, or code inspector, right? So EPC. So the main thing is ATC, ABAP test cockpit, because that is a cockpit, everything we can find from there itself, right? So in the ABAP test cockpit, what we can do that, if we go over there and if you want to analyze our code, okay, then we can use this particular variant in ABAP test cockpit, right? In very much detail, I have prepared the, video and put on the YouTube there about this. You can go and check in very much detail. It is explained. If you're not able to understand here, you can go and check. Okay, so there the variant have been created by the SAP functional underscore DB and functional underscore DB underscore edition. Other variant for the performance improvement, performance underscore DB and performance underscore DB underscore edition. So whenever we have to migrate to the S4 HANA, before migration, we can run this functional underscore DB and this particular variant, and we can check like which code is going to be impacted or which code need to be taken care, because in this functional underscore DB all these 4 points, all these 4 points is taken care. Okay, so just you have to select this variant and you have to run, right? You don't have to remember. Okay, this all things, there are several other guidelines as well, but these two are very important. Okay, these two are very important, which we must have to take care. Okay, it will give you the warning severity. If something is severe, it will also tell you that this is severe, you must have to fix it. If this is critical, you must have to fix it, right? So this a variant is going to help us a lot. Performance underscore DB and functional underscore DB. So in interview, interviewers sometimes what they ask, what variant we are supposed to use for the purpose of migrating from ECC to S4 HANA. So if you remember functional underscore DB and performance underscore DB, your answer is perfect. These two variant at least you are supposed to tell, and these are the frequently used one. Okay, let me note down this question. This is the important question. What are the important variant in ATC for the code check while migrating to HANA or S4 HANA? So your answer should be, your answer should be, mm, the first one is the functional underscore. This is important one. Functional means it will just check the functionality, whether your functionality is going to be impacted. So correct functionality is very much important than the performance, right? If performance is lacking, that's fine, but if your functionality is lacking, that is dangerous, right? So functional underscore DB and performance underscore DB. So functional underscore DB just to make sure that your functionality is working fine, and performance underscore DB is just to make sure the performance is, up to the mark. So these 2 points you'll have to remember. Okay, another variant also performance, this functional DB edition and performance DB edition, this also you can remember, but these two we must remember at least. Another question, which layer is responsible for converting the application server Open SQL into the native SQL? Okay, so this question is very popular and a well familiar question. However, this is not very frequently asked question. Okay, answer is the database abstraction interface. Database abstraction interface is going to convert your native SQL, right, into the corresponding database abstraction interface is going to convert your Open SQL into the corresponding native SQL as per the underlying database. Okay, and if you're going to use the native SQL itself, native SQL itself at the application server layer, that will be simply bypassed by this abstraction layer, because you are already using the native SQL only. So when you have to use a native SQL, what syntax we use? Inside the exec and end exec, we put the native SQL. But if you are writing the Open SQL or new Open SQL, right, that is going to be converted by the database abstraction interface into the native SQL of corresponding database. Another Important question over here, VBA question. This is again VBA, very, very important. You can't ignore such question. Okay, so wherever the VBA is there, we should have the focus. What is the best practices when database is HANA, right? What is the best practices in terms of performance improvement? We are talking about in form of performance improvement. Okay, so when initially yeah, I remember around 2014, right? When however the HANA started coming to the market from 2011 itself, right? 2011, 12, like that, 13. It was coming gradually. SAP was started marketing for this. In 2015, I remember I was working in some of the project, and my manager or somewhere we were discussing, and they were telling that HANA, we are writing the select query, like uh, in ECC we know that inside the loop and end loop, if you are going to write the select query, it's like a sin, right? यह पाप होता है, correct? This is a very big sin, right? Very big अपराध. We are not supposed to write at any point of type inside the loop and end loop, right? It's a very bad thing. Those people were discussing. I was not very much confident about the HANA and all at that point of time. I was not knowing well about, just I was hearing the term of HANA and all. Okay, so those people were discussing that in ECC these are not supposed to write. That is fine, perfectly. We are not supposed to write at any point of time. But what they were telling that inside the loop and end loop in HANA, if you are going to put the select query, no, means their way of talking, what they were trying to tell that for the HANA you can put the loop, you can put the select query inside the loop and end life. They were discussing like this. We can put the select query inside the loop and end loop, right? The logic behind this, they were giving that because HANA is so fast that it can do anything, right? But that was completely wrong concept. Even in HANA, we are not supposed to write the select query inside the loop. It is a very, 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 very bad practice. Even in HANA, also, we are not supposed to write the select query inside the loop and end loop. It will hamper the performance like anything. Why? Again, it has to communicate. Again, the application server has to communicate with the database, share multiple time. However, HANA database is so fast, does not matter. But when it has to establish the communication between the application server and database layer, right? It will consume time, and everywhere database has to instantiate, right? Database has to initialize the query and fetch the query, and it has to give because it's there in the loop, right? So it does not matter where, it does not matter whether your database is HANA or not HANA. Okay, we are not supposed to put the select query in any case inside the loop and end loop. It's a blunder. It's a blunder. It's the biggest mistake of the ABAPer life. It's the biggest mistake in the ABAP world. We are not supposed to put the select query inside the loop and end loop. Does not matter whatever the database. So in HANA database also, if you have, we are supposed to put the select query outside of the loop, right? Or you can use the for all entries if you require, right? So here, the second point I was talking about, decrease the number of database hit. Okay, decrease the number of database hit. And how you can decrease the number of database hit, right? You can increase, you can decrease the number of database hit by not putting the select query inside the loop and end loop. This is one way. Okay. Let's see the first point. Keep result set small. As a general practice, as a standard practice, right? What we have learned in the ECC. The same here also it is applicable. So how you can keep the result set small? Means the data which you are going to fetch from the HANA database, those data need to be kept small. How we can do? We can use the aggregate function, right? In the HANA database, we can use the aggregate function without any second thought. But if you don't have the HANA database, aggregate function we are not supposed to use, right? But here we are talking in terms of HANA database only, okay? That's why I have written it over here. So if you want to keep the result set small, aggregate function in the HANA database we can use, right? Where condition we can give maximum fields we can give in the where condition, okay? Or we can write the up to end rows, some some selected set of data only we want to get, right? So by this way we can, by this way we can uh, we can keep our result set small. By this way we can minimize the number of records, right? So how to achieve the first one? Decrease the number of database hit. For this, just we have seen, don't put the select query inside the loop and end loop, right? So use for all entries for the second point. This is the for the second point. How to achieve the first point and how to achieve the second point. Okay. So you can use the for all entries, right? Don't put the select query inside the loop. Okay. So we can achieve the same using the for all entries. Then for all entries with enabled FDA, right? Fast data access. I will tell you about this FDA. Okay. If you don't know, this is again very important. And if you have been working in some bigger project where large amount of data is there, you have come across the FDA related issue. This is the new feature of, means this is a feature of S4 HANA, this FDA fast data access. Inner join, left outer join, right outer join. We can use this one, right? Instead of putting the select query inside the loop, we can use the inner join, left outer join, or right outer join, right? So uh, this is the things, and here are some notes we are having. Earlier inner join supported only 6 tables, yes, and now it supports up to 20 tables. Okay, so in the HANA database you can use up to 20 tables. The inner join can be used up to 20 tables. Get only those fields which is required. The SAP ABAP standard practice, right? This is this is SAP ABAP standard practice. So we are not supposed to use select a star. We are supposed to select only those fields which is required. Why to keep the unnecessary code? That is fine, right? Use parallel cursor here. Parallel cursor, right, is also like loop inside the loop is not recommended, right? Loop inside the loop is not at all recommended. Here also use a parallel cursor. Use the binary search. Buffer in HANA also we are having the buffer concept, right? One of the very important certification question also we are having is buffer mechanism supported by the HANA database or S4 HANA. The answer yes. Buffer mechanism is still there. Okay. Buffer mechanism is still there. Then in HANA database, we can use the text search or fuzzy search, right? Just a second. Okay. What is FDA? FDA actually, let's try to understand this FDA. This is again very important interview question. But again depends like how your interviewer is. But I have realized that this is one of the, with various discussion and all. I have not directly come across such question, but with various discussion with my friends and colleagues and with my students, I understood this one of the, in project I have come across. Okay, in real time I have come across many times this one. What is this FDA? FDA stands for fast data access. So you know that the for all entries, if you know the for all entries concept, what happens that when we put the select query with for all entries, it will send the data in chunk of 50 records to the database. It will first send the 50 records to the database, and corresponding entry it will take and put into the internal table on the application server layer. Again 50 records it will send from here to the database, and again it will take. Okay, so these 50 50 50 records, if you are sending from application server and getting from the database layer to the application server, that is not good from the performance point of view. Okay, but this was the concept earlier, before S4 HANA. Now we are having the concept of FDA, fast data access. What it will do that, right? Let me make it more clear. Select some field. Let's suppose uh, we have the MATNR works from Marcy table into table IT underscore Marcy for all entries in IT underscore Mara, where Matner equal to IT underscore Mara Matner. Okay, so this is the code I'm having at this point of time. So earlier, like before S4 HANA, okay, what used to happen that we were not having the FDA mechanism. So as a general, the here what we are doing, based upon the IT underscore Mara, we are fetching the data from the Marcy table, right, and putting into the IT underscore Marcy. So we are willing to get only those material and plants which are present in IT underscore Mara table. In this IT underscore Mara, we are having some material. Okay, so for this material we want to have the material number and plant into this IT underscore Marcy. So what used to happen earlier, from this IT underscore Mara, let's suppose if you have the 100 records in this IT underscore Mara, so the database abstraction layer, right, it will take the 50 records from here and send to the backend database, and for those 50 records it will fetch the data from the Marcy table and put into the IT underscore Marcy. Okay, again it will fetch the 50 records from this IT underscore Mara and send to the backend database, and from there, based upon the next 50 records, it will fetch the data from Marcy table. Okay, from this Marcy table, and it will put into this IT underscore Marcy table, in this table. Okay, so now because you are having the 100 records, now your 100 records is now completed, right? Now, if we're going to enable the FDA, basis is having the authorization to perform the settings. So if we're going to enable the FDA in in the SAP system, right? What will happen? It will not send the data of IT underscore Mara in chunk of 50-50. It will send all the data in one go to the database layer and fetch the data from the Marcy table for all 100 records of the IT underscore Mara in one go and put into this. Okay. So now what is the problem? Why problem comes when you are going to use the FDA, right? Problem comes when, suppose if you have the, you know, 1 lakh record into IT underscore Mara, then the problem comes. When you have the large amount of records in IT underscore Mara, then the problem comes. What kind of problem comes? It will go into dump. Okay, or generally it will go into the dump. Why? Because the database is not able to handle the 1 lakh record at one time, yeah, like internally. If it again depends on the capacity of database, and there are various settings, but what we come across the problem, it will go into the dump. Okay, it will go improve the dump, and that dump will tell something like that, not able to handle, something like that it will tell, so in that case, what we have to do that, there is a, there is a hint, there is a hint. I don't remember exactly the hint how it is, but it uh, there is a hint on the HANA database. What you can do, if you can get it from the Google, if you apply that hint, what it will do that, it will disable the FDA for this particular query. Okay, so the when the query will run and it will see that this is the hint applied to of the FDA, fast data access will not work for this particular query. Okay, and then it will work as usual. So again, the 50-50 records, it will go and it will go to the backend and get the data from there. Okay, and by this way we can avoid, you know the dump. So this is how we use as a solution. Okay, hope this is clear for you, right? So right here in the chat box, if it is clear for you, if you understood the concept of FDA, right here, clear. If you understood the concept of this FDA, this is the important one. You will, if you would have given the interview, you might have come across this question, right? Or if you have not come across, you will certainly come across someday. Okay, so just right over here, if you understood the concept of, FDA. Okay, so Prakash is right, telling that, to explain one more time. Okay, so in one sentence I would like to give the answer for this, that FDA is just to improve the performance by sending all the data from the internal table on which for all entries you are applying. Okay, and to fetch the data from the database table in one go. Okay, so in one statement we can tell like this: all the data from internal table on which for all entries have been applied, all those data will be sent to the database layer, and for all those data in one go, data will be fetched from the marcy table and put inside the, it underscore marcy, all the data in one go. That's the meaning of FDA. Okay, is it clear now, Prakash? Are you now able to understand? Yes, yes, and just a second, I'm going to unmute you. mm, Prakash, yes, I have unmuted you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pankaj, my
Mm-hmm.
question to you is,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, it's like you sending the data and bringing everything together. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is when it is like 1 lakh records in IT Mara, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is going to take a while. But how does the FDA improve the performance? That's my question.
Okay, okay. See, earlier what we were having, that we are sending in chunk of 50, 50, 50,
Yes.
50, right?
Correct, correct, correct.
Yeah. So if you are something sending in chunk of 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, and if you are sending all together in one go, right?
Mhm.
So that will improve the performance, right?
Yeah,
Suppose.
but
Hmm.
why we were not sending all of them at one shot was because it was taking a long time. You know, when the native SQL gets generated, right? It will be like for the same field, like for example, Mara, it'll put a select where condition or 1 lakh times,
Yeah, see here.
right?
I
That is
got your
what is going to
question.
happen in the
So
back end.
for answer of your question is actually, so suppose if you have, let's suppose if you have, 1,000 records, okay, or let's suppose if you have the 500 records, okay, and if you are sending in chunk of 50-50, let's suppose to process the 50 records, how much time you are going to get? How much time you are, it's going to take for process of 50 records, let's suppose 10 milliseconds. Okay, so in one trip around, in one round of communication, in one round of communication, how much it's going to take time? 10 millisecond. So if we're going to send for 50 records, right? 50 records, again 50 records, again 50 records. How many rounds for 500 it has to take place? Om Prakash?
Yeah, for 50 records, it's at least 10 times, right?
Yeah, so it has to take 10,
100
10
milliseconds.
round, right? It will have to
Yeah,
take the 10 round. So total time how much? 100 milliseconds, right?
correct.
And apart from that, suppose in one round, means when it is going to take the data in the first round, so for that, for communicating, for sending the data, also for traveling the data for 50 records, it will take some time. So for one round traveling the data from application server to database server, let's suppose if you have the 1 millisecond, let's suppose. So here we are having again 10 round for traveling the data, right? Extra load is there, so it will be 10 seconds, correct?
Correct.
Are you able to getting me understand my point, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So total how much here? Total 100 plus 10, correct?
Mm-hmm.
110 millisecond of time is taking over here. Now suppose if you have enabled the FDA, right, for these 500 records. So this 500 records in one go, it will go inside the database, right? And for these 500 records, it will put the select query on the marcy table, right? So the trip around time, here you are having the 10 round. In 500, how much your trip around it will be? In one
That
go, if you are going to send the data, how much will be the trip around time?
it should technically be only 10 seconds again,
Technically, it will be 10 seconds. Why?
because for every round it is, sorry, for every round it is 1 second,
Hmm.
1 millisecond, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So one record going back and forth will be like again
No, no,
10.
we are not sending the one record. We are sending 500 records in one go because you have enabled now FDA, right?
Correct.
So how many round? If you are going to set 500 records in one go, then how
Only
many?
one round, right?
Yeah, so only one round. So for one round, let us suppose if it
So
is having
total it
even,
will be like 10,
yeah,
11 milliseconds.
11 milliseconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting your concept. How it will
Okay,
take?
okay. You tell me how much it is going to be.
No, no, no. You tell me. You have to. You were trying to get the answer. So logically,
Mhm.
we have to think it over here for 500, because if I tell you again, you will not understand. Okay.
Okay,
So for this 500 records, if you are going to send in one go, right? How many round? One round, right?
correct. One round is like 1 millisecond, right?
Yeah. So for one round, how much time it will take? 1 millisecond,
1 millisecond.
correct? And
Correct.
here for processing all the 500 records, right? It was taking 100 milliseconds, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so for 500 records processing, how much it will take?
Yeah, 100 milliseconds, right?
Yeah. So 500 records, it will take the 100 milliseconds. So now total how much?
101 millisecond.
101 milliseconds, right?
Mm.
Not only, see here the 9 millisecond difference we are having, right?
Correct.
Not only this much advantage, actually, if you send all the data in one go, the database optimizer optimize the record in such a way that the query should become the fast. So whatever here it is taking the 100 millisecond, this may less also, right? So
Mm.
it's going to give you the better performance by this way than this way, always. But the problem only when you have the large number of records, you know The problem only when if you have large number of records, because if you're going to send 5 lakh records in one go, it will go into dump. That's where the problem comes into picture. Okay.
Correct.
Otherwise FDA is fast, so that
Okay.
we have to
But the
take care.
syntax is hint.
Syntax is hint. Yeah, you can disable, because you cannot globally, if you are going to disable globally, that is not good. Globally you can disable, you can get it disabled with the help of basis people. Basis people
Okay.
know, yeah, there is a parameter, some profile parameter is there, they are just go and switch off. Okay, but that
Okay.
is not the good idea. Why to disable the FDA? Instead, wherever it is creating the problem, just write the database hint, and that hint will be able to switch off the FDA. Okay.
Okay.
With this, let's wrap up our today's session, and we will meet tomorrow again. Okay. And again, I crossed the time. Mm, I will improve gradually. Okay. Mm, So I'm going to stop the recording.